Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo.
Hello and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. I am so excited, really excited. I know I say it every single week, but this guest is really super special. We have Krystiana. She's the newest dietitian to the Tips with Tony team. I'm so excited for you to get to know her, to learn from her. And little spoiler alert, she has a culinary background. So we're going to learn a little bit more about how to make healthy food taste good. And I think that's what you're going to be most excited to learn about and hear from her. So without further ado, Krystiana, welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be part of the team.
You're so welcome. We're very, very thrilled to have you. So guys, this is like how things come full circle. A few years ago, I went up to SUNY Oneonta. That's my college, my alma mater. I even did my master's and dietetic internship through them. And me and my good friend, Melanie Bomer, not Bomer anymore. She's married, but you probably know her as Melanie Bomer. She is a sports dietitian. And anyways, long story short, me and her decided to take a trip up to Oneonta. Our old professors kind of had asked us to come talk to, I was going up anyway. Some professors had us talk to the Food and Nutrition Association. And I got to meet some incredible, inspiring dietitians to be. So they were in school to become dietitians, and Krystiana was there. And we had connected on social media and stayed in touch. And it was just crazy because I posted something on my story about how I definitely needed to hire, but I didn't want to go through looking again. Last time I had to go through over 100 applications. Let me tell you, that was a headache and a half. And she basically reached out to me and she's like, hey, I feel like this would be something I could be great at. And I'm like, all right, let's hop on a call. I basically interviewed her and here we are. So things come full circle. It's super, super cool. Krystiana, I would love for you to share with our listeners just a little bit more about yourself. And more importantly, why you decided to go the route to become a dietitian.
All right. Yeah, I'd love to give a little bit more about my background. Might be a little bit long, but everything will make sense towards the end. So I was born in Eastern Europe. I grew up in a city, but my grandparents had a summer house that we would go to. So my grandmother loved having her bees. She loved planting flowers, and we also grew a lot of our food there. So since I was a little kid, I remember going to the house, picking fresh strawberries and anything else that we were making for lunch or dinner that day, and then bringing it back. I was always by her side, peeling carrots and potatoes. So that was a very comfortable place for me. I grew up literally seeing my food grown right in front of my eyes. I moved to the States when I was young. So I was around 7 years old. And it was a very big culture shock, that's for sure. I mean, America is a huge melting pot of cultures. And one of the things that my mom did to help me move into the brand new move that we did was through food. So we explored all different types of food, and it got me really comfortable in not only the kitchen, but in my surrounding. And overall, it just kind of went from there. I never stopped. I mean, it was Anthony Bourdain's Parts Unknown shows. We were constantly going to bookstores, and I knew that I wanted to ultimately pursue culinary. I wanted to cook. It was my favorite place to be, and I love teaching all my friends too. It's like, hey, check out this recipe that I did with my mom the other day, and they loved it too. So essentially, I knew that I wanted to be in a background that taught about food. When I was 13, my mom got pregnant with my little brother, and she was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. So a lot of the time while she was going through her pregnancy, we were going to a nutritionist and a dietitian too at the time who was helping her manage her blood sugar levels. For the most part, I attended a lot of those appointments, and it just showed me how much food in our health really does affect how we feel every day. And just seeing my mom's mood and overall health improve with the progress that she was making with her dietitian, it kind of just clicked. I have both parts that I really want to do, which is help people and also incorporate food into everyday life. And that's where I pursued a undergraduate degree in nutrition and dietetics. I mean, I went to SUNY Oneonta, which is ultimately where I met you. So
yeah,
overall, that's kind of like what made me pursue it.
And I think it's so cool. So it's so funny, actually. Mary Rose, our other dietitian, she got into the field because I believe her father was diagnosed with diabetes, and they went to go to a dietitian, and she saw the impact and the changes, and she thought it was just magical. And so I think that's great. It's so funny. It's true though, right? Like,
so eye-opening.
Yeah. And it's on, you don't have to necessarily, I mean, some people might have to, but you might not have to take insulin or take any medications like metformin or anything. You could literally make a lifestyle change through your habits, and your entire mood, energy levels, and health improves as a result. So it's super cool. You guys have that in common. So, but amazing. So, okay, quickly, before we get into today's topic, just let people know the steps it takes to become a registered dietitian. Where are you at in the process? Because I think people underestimate or forget or don't know the difference between a dietitian versus a nutritionist. And I think it's important. It's not to say that some people out there who call themselves nutritionist or have a specific like nutrition coaching degree or license are not educated. However, when you go the dietitian route, you're like 99.9% you are educated because you have to go through a very specific criteria, right? So just share with the listeners what it's taken you to get here.
So the first thing that I pursued was my bachelor's in nutrition and dietetics. The curriculum overall that I underwent was heavily based on not only nutrition-focused classes, I also did science classes, so things like your biology, chemistry, anatomy, and physiology. I took biochem too. I was fully into labs doing everything that a lot of science majors were doing as well. And you also get the aspect of food service. So you kind of learn behind the scenes of cooking, management. We did a lot of projects where we're making our own restaurants. And I feel like in general, it's 3 majors in one, if you think about it.
It really is.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I remember the days was like I was going to a nutrition lecture to learn about a vitamin or a mineral. Then I was making cheese in the food lab, and then ending at like my A&P lab where I was looking at different types of bones. So overall, I feel like starting off by having a bachelor's degree in dietetics, you get such a big perspective on how the body works.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, I finished in 2020, and then I pursued my dietetic internship. So a dietetic internship, you usually have to complete a specific amount of hours, again, following up in the clinical setting. So that's where you're working in a hospital, long-term care facility. You also do your food service rotation too. So I ended up doing both of them at the same hospital. And then you also do your community aspect. So it's like you're going out into the community, you're going to WIC, you're doing school projects, things like that. So it gives you an extra year of training in the actual field.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, of course, supervised by other dietetic professionals, RDs, and you're literally seeing step by step what that career would entail. Because it's
like a sneak peek. It's like, would you want to go? Because as a dietitian, you could do so many things. You can go a clinical route, you can go a community route, you can go a food service route, and then you can go entrepreneurial, you can go teaching, you can go educating. I mean, there's so many aspects. You can get into the food science of things, research. I mean, it's like insane. So yeah, I actually really love the dietetic internship because I feel like it gives you a little bit of a taste of what it's like in the real world. So you kind of know what to pursue or what you want to pursue after. You know, but before we do that, what did you have? You don't just get the internship.
You don't.
Right? Yeah. So explain that process. So you go to 4 years of an undergrad, you have your bachelor's for 4 years, and then you have to apply to an internship, correct?
Yes, you do. So usually you go through, it's called DICAS. So it's a portal where you essentially put in an application and it's matching process. So not only are you picking the places that you want to go and intern, those places are also seeing if you match their program.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit overwhelming to do, especially if you don't rank your internships right. You can actually, unfortunately, end up missing out.
Not getting it, right? Yeah. When I was in school, it was only a 50% match rate. What is it now? Do you know?
I think it stayed around the same. percentage. I'm not 100% sure, but it's still very competitive. I mean,
it's very competitive, guys. Yeah. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is just so you guys can understand that in order to get matched, they're looking for someone who stands out, right? So they're looking, you're not just, you took the science classes, you took the nutrition classes, you took the food service classes, like you did all the things, you got a degree, but honestly, that's not enough. To become a registered dietitian, you have to you have to stand out. And you have to be more than that 50% of people who not only are going through and taking this, passing the classes, but are getting A's in those classes, right? I think you need like a specific, they're not going to really take you seriously if you have less than, I want to say I think a B average, right? It's not, I think you can't even apply. I know with it depends on the location, but they'll tell you not to apply if your GPA is lower than a 3.2 or something.
Yeah. So a lot of them do have the GPA where you have to maintain at least a 3.5 actually. So
yeah, that's what I thought.
Doing undergrad, if we had 2 classes that we got lower than a B minus, we would kind of be put on not probation, but they would bring you in and they would say, hey, we would really want you to retake this class.
Mm-hmm. I did that, by the way, guys. It was just spoiler alert. This is just something funny for you guys to understand for me. So my very first semester of college, I pledged for a sorority, and it was an off-campus sorority, and I did not sleep. I barely went to class. I'm not going to lie, guys. This is a true story. My nutrition 101, my nutrition 100 that everybody takes, I think I got a C. I'm not kidding. Cause I remember it was really bad, guys, really bad. Don't recommend. Although those were the best years of my life. And I ended up recovering really well. So I decided my junior or senior year to retake nutrition 100. I literally got 100 in the class because at that point, I already had so much nutrition knowledge and I just got those part of my life out of the way. But I literally had to retake it. There was one semester I was taking so many credits it didn't even count as a credit. It was just counting as a grade replacement so that I could get my GPA back up. So.
I actually did that too for one of my science classes. I was so close originally, but I just did not make the cut. And
science is hard.
Yeah, it is hard. And so I wanted to make sure that before I applied to the internships that I kind of was at the GPA average that I wanted to be at.
Yeah.
But yeah, besides the GPA, they also look into what makes you you. So a lot of the times it's what are you part of? What clubs are you part of? Are you taking any initiatives? So I was part of a lot of the nutrition focused clubs that we had on campus. I also worked with one of my mentors, she was a professor too. And we kind of worked with the dining hall. So we did things like menus every month. We had specifically focused, we did a dining hall takeover. So it's focused on a specific culture. We did a whole menu, also working with the chefs. It was really a great experience. And the students loved it. I mean, I would have people come and say all the time, when's the next event? What's the next thing that you're doing? But it's just overall what takes to get it. It's you have to also not only get the grades, but you also have to show the balance that you can do a lot of the homework.
Involvement. Yeah, the clubs.
Everything. Yeah. On top of that, having another job. So they want to make sure that you're balanced too. And
experienced. And they want you to have experience. Guys, I was but honestly, this is why I chose Krystiana, because she has my watch is talking to me. She has a passion like I did. You just do it all. You just do it all because you love it. You genuinely love it. I mean, I was interning at, Bassett Hospital.
Yes,
yeah. So I was intern there. On my summers, I was a nutrition educator at summer camps on Long Island. Then when I was during college, so I was intern at Bassett 1 to 2 times a week. I was in the food and nutrition. I was a secretary for the Food and Nutrition Association. I worked with Nutrition for Performance with Dr. Bush.
Nutrition pros that
all the things you did, all the things. But honestly, all that to say, guys, I think people. The reason why I wanted to highlight this really quick, and then we'll get into today's topic, was just that registered dietitians are really hardworking people. Listen, I know that there's BS ones out there, just like there's BS everything else out there. There's, nobody's perfect, but the most of the people that you come across that have those credentials, they work their asses off. Okay, because it's not easy. And we also, by the way, we don't get recognized like nurses and doctors in the clinical setting, but we go through very similar steps to get there. It's just shortened a little bit. Well, longer than nutrition or the nurses, but it's shorter than doctors. All that to say, everyone in the medical field, I think, works really hard. I think that's also why, though, guys, that you'll probably have seen a shift in a lot of registered dietitians now having platforms online and being more entrepreneurs, because they're not really appreciated in the clinical space. So we finally are getting out there. Now we're almost like playing catch up to everybody else. But it's just so great and refreshing to see. So just so you guys know, just thank your dietitian. Actually, pretty soon, I think RD Day is coming out soon. This might be coming out around then. Yeah, so Registered Dietitian Day is usually the Wednesday in March, right? When is it this year?
Well, March is 6th. National Nutrition Month.
Yes. Very exciting. And so you're here and see a lot from us in the month of March. But all right, so today's topic, let's get into it. So Chris, you have a great culinary background. You're fabulous in the kitchen. If you're not following her on Instagram, follow her like ASAP. The dishes will make you drool. Like, they're so good. It's Nutrition with Chris, KRYS, right?
Yes, it is.
All right, I'll put that I'll link that in the show notes. But all right, so let's talk about because I think that when people think of eating healthy, they automatically think of like grilled chicken or egg whites or, steamed broccoli. Like, oh God, ew. Sorry, I'm just like, and then if they're eating carbs, they'll put like maybe rice or potatoes, but like just plain and boring. So I thought it'd be cool if we kind of go around like, how can we make our proteins, maybe our animal proteins, then we can do plant-based proteins, then we can talk about like grains and veggies and like ways to make our food taste better, but also be nutritious. So what are your biggest recommendations? Let's start with like animal proteins. How would you suggest like getting away from like boring, plain, like boiled or grilled chicken? Not that you can't have it, but like we want people to enjoy their food. So what could they have instead?
Definitely. Well, one of my biggest tips for animal proteins is marinating. Marinating is so important because not only
I'm sighing like, yeah, because I'm like sighing because I have to remember to do that.
Right. And even sometimes you don't even need such a long time. While you're cooking other stuff, you can marinate for 10, 15 minutes, and that's all you would need, right?
Yeah.
Just doing a lot of marinades. Like if you're grilling chicken, add some lemon zest or some orange zest and some juice. I mean, it'll add some citrus flavor to it. I mean, we're kind of still, at least in New York, we're still in kind of like a winter mode. So it's kind of gloomy sometimes. Like adding some flavor to your foods will also lift you up. I mean, life is too short for like food to be boring. So
yeah.
Definitely doing that. It was Tuesday yesterday, so I made like tacos, and I ended up making like shrimp tacos. So I added some like lime zest and some lime juice, some garlic and some chili powder, and it actually ended up being really, really good on the tacos. But yeah, looking for your animal proteins, adding some citrus to it. That's kind of my favorite to add in, for sure.
So citrus would be things like oranges, lemons, limes. How do you know what to pair the herbs with? Like, I just think of like lime and cilantro. They go together. But like, I wouldn't know what I'm really bad at this, guys. Like everybody, I don't know if you guys know this, but I just like cook to eat. And I really need to get better at like taking my time in the kitchen. Like I actually had like a big bunch of cilantro and I didn't even have lime. So it's just so bad. But the cilantro ended up throwing it out because I never used it because I didn't know what to do with it. Mm-hmm. What would is that true? Did I make that up? Could I have put cilantro on something that was like lemon based?
Yeah, you can definitely do it. Also, you can do the trick where you have the cilantro with some garlic and you make it into a paste and you leave it in a jar with like a little bit of salt. So that way you can add it on when you're cooking.
Wait, what? Time out. Rewind. You take cilantro. So repeat this. This is magic. You take cilantro.
Yeah, so you can take the cilantro, put it in a blender or food processor, add some salt and garlic, and that turns into a paste. And then you can also put it in anything, especially with like your meat and stuff like that. And it's already prepped for you and you don't have to do that additional step.
So do you cook with that, or is it more of like something you put on after to like dip in?
I would cook with it.
Interesting.
And that's also another base that you can use for marinade. So add in some lime juice, add in some orange juice, some zest. And then
I got to get better with herbs. Let's talk about herbs. I got to get better with them, especially now things are getting, I feel like it's the season where people are going to be, cooking with herbs more. It's the springtime. I don't know why. I just feel like we want more fresher dishes. Yeah. And what can I do? How can I use more herbs?
All right. So, it also depends on the types of herbs that you're using. So if you have things like thyme or rosemary, I would like to cook that more with poultry. You can add in fresh cilantro and basil actually in just regular salads. It just elevates things up to a level.
And that's probably why, when you go to a restaurant, it tastes better. Yeah. Your salad, when you order salad out, when you make it from home, it just tastes better. Yeah, they're probably putting some other herb in there.
Right, because if you think about it, in the restaurants, they always have the garnish, right? So it's either cilantro, basil, anything like that. It's adding in more flavor, and it actually makes your food look a little bit prettier too without adding so much effort into prep.
Totally. Okay, so cilantro and basil would be good in a fresh salad.
Yes.
Also, we can do the paste situation that we just talked about. And then thyme and rosemary.
Those are good for when you're cooking your meat. So think poultry, steak, anything like that. You just add a little bit in while you're cooking it, and it gives it a little bit more of an earthy flavor. So it complements the meat.
Great. Yeah, I see that in cooking shows. I'm watching Top Chef, right? Is it Top Chef or no? It's not Master Chef. I think it's called Top Chef. It's they have the 3 levels. Right. Do you see it with Gordon Ramsay?
Love him.
Anyways, so I've been watching them do more of that stuff.
Also, Jamie Oliver. If anyone really wants some simple and effortless recipes, Jamie Oliver's great.
Okay. And Chris's page, Nutrition with Chris.
And my page too. the little reels and stuff. And so it's been really fun kind of showing the process of behind the scenes.
Yeah. It's really cool to see. It's inspiring. You make me want to cook more.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the aim. That's the aim.
So you just posted a salmon dish.
I did.
Right. So how did you make the salmon? Because I think people are, I feel like shrimp is easier for people to make, but I think when it comes to fish fillets, also, by the way, I just did a swordfish on my own and it was good. It was fine. But I am curious also, how would I make the swordfish taste better? So let's start with the salmon. What are some of your favorite kind of go-tos to make salmon taste phenom? And then we'll go to swordfish.
Well, this is where I'm talking about doing even a light marinade for a few minutes. So when I made that dish, I did a carrot and beet slaw. I did a mixed grains of different types of rice. And then I also cooked the salmon. So while I was prepping everything else, I marinated it with a little bit of honey, some lemon juice. I did cilantro, garlic, and a little bit of olive oil. So I blended that in, some salt, pepper. I added cumin and chili flakes, and just mixing it all together, putting the fish there while you're doing the other prep. And once it's almost done, and when you think that you have to cook your salmon, just throw it in and it adds some extra flavor.
Amazing. And I don't remember the salmon. Did you broil it or bake that one?
I baked that.
You baked
so
that
while everything else was cooking, put it in the oven to bake. And while it's baking, you can go ahead and do anything else that you need to do.
Great. So honey. So, this actually, I'm glad you brought this up, because I think people hear something like honey, or even before when you said citrus, I think we talked about this offline. Sometimes you might add a little bit of orange juice to your chicken. I think people, when they hear that, they're like, oh no, but there's sugar in that. I don't want to put sugar in my meat. Right. Or I don't want to put sugar in my food in general. I don't want to add added sugar. What would you say to that?
Well, I think the first thing is think about the amount that you're adding in, right? So you're only adding in a few tablespoons of orange juice, or max a tablespoon of honey. So if you realistically look into how much you're putting in, you're not really adding that much sugar in. You're adding the flavor of it, but you're not really compromising a lot of the sugar that's actually in the dish. And on top of that, the sugars actually help brown up, especially with the meats. It helps caramelize some of that sugar, so it gives it a little bit more flavor.
Right.
So that's where you see the crispy brown tops on fish sometimes. This is common with chicken too. So it contributes to the flavor, but it doesn't really compromise the nutrition part of it.
Yeah. And guys, I wanted to highlight this on purpose because what happens is that we fear a tiniest bit of sugar that barely, like she just said, it's barely even in there. And all it does is making it taste better. And because we have this fear of using sugar in our marinades or in our cooking, we don't enjoy our food. It doesn't taste as good. And then we end up binging and overeating on sugar afterwards. And guys, I don't demonize sugar. I think we need sugar in our diets, and it's totally okay to incorporate, sweet treats when you're craving them, right? But the point I wanted to bring up was that you wouldn't crave them so much if you allowed yourself to cook with sugar and enjoy your food a little bit better. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that because I thought it was an important point, because I get comments like that all the time. Or even like not even on the sugar topic, but even just like even doing like a breadcrumb or something. It's like this fear of like, oh no, but that's going to add carbohydrates or more carbs to my meal. And I'm like, yeah, but it's going to give it a little crunch. It's going to be satisfying, right? And better be in your balanced, plate versus like now we're overeating on a gallon of ice cream because we didn't get we're craving, our body didn't get what it needed. So yeah, so important. So, okay, so we talked about herbs, we talked about some proteins. What about your greens? I get a lot of things like, if someone wants to cook with like quinoa or farro, right? Those are complex carbohydrates. They're high in fiber. They're nutrient dense. They're great additions to a dish. But a lot of people are like, I don't really like the taste of it, or I don't know how to cook it. What suggestions would you have to making your whole grains taste better?
Definitely broth. Broth is such an overlooked ingredient. So if you're making your own broth, you can definitely add it in. So this could be anything from mushroom, chicken, beef, or vegetable. I actually like to cook my lentils in mushroom broth, and it just elevates it to a brand new level. If you're buying it from the grocery store, I definitely would recommend looking for the low sodium kind. That way you're not adding as much sodium into your meal as well. Mm-hmm. But the broths will just bring such a nice, flavorful addition to any type of grain. So if you're doing rice, quinoa, farro, if you're doing barley or anything like that, it's definitely going to make it taste a lot better and a little bit more satisfying, because especially with mushrooms, they give you that umami flavor, right? Mm-hmm. So it kind of brings a brand new flavor into the dish.
Yeah, I love that. All right. And I forgot we skipped over plant-based proteins. So something like, I feel like if we're encouraging someone to try every once in a while, have like maybe tofu or tempeh or edamame, how can someone let's do tofu, because I feel like a lot of people don't even know how to cook it. Mm-hmm. How would somebody make tofu taste better?
Oh, I feel like there's so many different cooking ways. First of all, one of the big tips is if you're cooking with tofu, make sure you drain it. Because you know how they come
and it should be firm, guys, by the way, unless you're putting it in like a smoothie. I think the texture, a lot of people don't even know which texture to purchase. Definitely. And like, just to my point before, like, I'm not kidding, guys, half the time I just throw this stuff on my salad. Like, I really need to take these tips. So this podcast recording is also for me. Not that I don't know how, I'm just like, whatever I can get, whatever gets the job done so I can get back to work. It's terrible. It's such a bad, I need to not be judging myself right now, but I am.
It's all learning process too. I mean, you learn along the way. I'm still learning. There's so much that I still don't even know that in the cooking field that get a brand new cookbook and I'm like, wow, I've never thought of making this way, all learning process. And once you're in the kitchen and getting comfortable, you also learn to appreciate your food a lot more.
Yeah. That's definitely true. And creating the space and time to do it.
Yes.
I think can make it, obviously, I think that's the other thing too. Once you get into the habit of making these dressings or these marinades or even just like these, kind of like your go-to recipes, and you don't need as much time to do it, and you'll get really good at it. I think that's the other fear like people have, or not fear, but like maybe they're intimidated, I guess, to even attempt or try, or they think it's going to take a long time. And like, yeah, maybe the first time you do it, because you really got to think about it. But once you do it often, it, just like your other go-to meals that you probably prepare, it's just becomes another meal that you can just kind of throw together.
Right. No, definitely. I think if you prep it, you take one day out of the week where you're prepping all these items, right? So you're going grocery shopping, you're prepping your fruits, you're prepping everything else, prepping your proteins. adding an extra 5 minutes to do the prep. And I think this is where actually things like TikTok or Instagram Reels are great, because they show like a 10-second recipe, right? Or like a 10-second marinade. And it doesn't look as intimidating when you're seeing someone else do it.
Right.
So just having those references where something's plated really beautifully, you're like, wow, that's like, I could never be able to do that. But then you're actually watching someone do it. It's literally all about how you cut something, right?
Mm-hmm.
About how you cook it. Like, for example, just like portioning everything out. It looks a lot more intimidating than it actually is. So having those kind of learning opportunities just to see and observe, it's really not that complicated. It's really effortless if you really think about it. You just need to put in a little bit of thought and a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So, okay. So let's go back to firm tofu.
Yes.
How do we make it taste better?
Firm tofu, definitely make sure you drain out the liquid. Otherwise it will be mushy. Another thing is, your cooking styles, things like your air fryer. If anyone has access to an air fryer, it's great to just have your tofu, cut it up in cubes. I like to put it with barbecue sauce, coat it with barbecue sauce, and then throw it in the air fryer for like a little bit, and it gets it really, really crispy. If you don't have an air fryer, you can broil it. In a way, tofu, you can eat it as is, right? It's not like meat where you have to cook it through. That way you don't eat raw meat.
Right.
But tofu is pretty much a very universal food where you can eat it raw or you can cook it.
Mm-hmm.
I like doing it with barbecue sauce. That's probably one of my favorites.
I'm not big on barbecue sauce, but I probably could do another, it's simple, just like add a sauce and then air fry it.
Yeah. Or if you like Italian.
I've never broiled it before.
Yeah, you should try it. Or just putting it on the grill, kind of like tofu.
I've fried it before, not even like a fry. Like I'll put like a little olive oil spray, so it's like on the stove top. So I guess it's technically fried, but it's not like saturated in oil. Yeah, interesting. Actually, my air fryer has like a grill feature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting. And there's the grill on my rooftop, but I'm afraid to use it.
I'm so scared of turning on a grill.
Like community, it's like not ours. So it's like a community one. So it's like, God forbid I ever broke it. I would just I'd probably jump off the building out of just shame.
I'll have to turn the grill on because I get too scared.
Yeah. Oh man. Wow. This has been so helpful. This is really great. Is there anything else you would think someone needs to hear if they're a little bit fearful of getting in the kitchen, or they want to learn how to eat healthier meals, but flavor their food? Just any simple tips that you might have.
Yeah, the first thing is kind of making the decision that you want to pursue it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Keep on saying, I want to do it, but you're not taking the steps to kind of prepare yourself for it. It's not going to happen.
True.
And you don't need anything fancy. You don't need any fancy kitchen gadgets. You don't need a lot of big, pricey, and expensive equipment. All you need is just kind of the desire to cook. And like I mentioned, having the resources, even the Reels and the TikToks and looking through a cookbook or even watching some cooking shows. I think that's a great starter for anyone who is a little bit intimidated to cook and don't really know how to pair things together. But overall, just getting that background knowledge. Putting a little bit of time, you could be washing your dishes and watching a cooking show,
Yeah.
It definitely does help. And I think it's also just the concept of not being scared to be in a kitchen, kind of just getting used to it and kind of
practice makes perfect.
It does. It really does. The amount of times I've kind of cut something wrong or cut my finger or burn my hand somewhere, it's it's not as intimidating, and you'll get a lot of knowledge once you're doing it as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, guys, definitely follow Chris if you are intimidated and you're looking for just simple, easy ideas. Definitely make sure you follow her on Instagram. And then also we have a special announcement. So if you watch to the end, you're in for a treat. So, okay. So this is what's happening. Basically, currently, myself, Mary Rose, and Casey are full for our client load for the 6 months of Food Freedom Program. Krystiana is brand new to the team, and we're going to get her schedule filled. However, she does need to go through a training process first. I require that. I required that with Mary Rose, and I required that with Casey, and even myself before I was like felt comfortable, increasing my rates to full price. I was like, I want to make sure like I'm getting people results and all those things. So I want Chris to get a little bit more experience. So we're offering 50% off of the 6 months food freedom program for a limited time. I haven't announced this on my Instagram story yet, but probably by the time you hear this, I will, which means the spots might be gone because it's a very limited time and it's a very special offer. And it's literally once in a lifetime, because after this, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe if we get another new RD, but that will probably be like about a year from now. So with that said, if you are ready, if you've been on the fence, if you've been wanting to reach out, but maybe you are either on a tight budget or you've been a little bit fearful, you're looking for a sign, this is it. If you want the opportunity to work with Krystiana, we'll get the opportunity if you apply before. Let me give a date because I think that'll be easier. Because the spots will be gone. So I'm going to say this episode is airing on March 10th. So if this is, okay, so you get 1 week. That's it. By St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. Get your application in by March 17th, and I will promise you that we will fit you in. Even if her spots are filled, you might have to wait a couple of weeks, but you will get that 50% reduced rate. But we want it for those who are ready and who are going to take it seriously, and who really are just wanting to basically, whatever your health goals are, really transform your entire lifestyle to create healthier habits. And she'll definitely teach you cooking skills to get you back in the kitchen for sure. But lots of great experience, and I will be overseeing the process. So make sure you go to tipswithtony.com/coaching to fill out an application, and make sure you make a little bit of a note in there. Like when the one of the questions is I think it's like question 5 or 6. It's about, are you willing to invest in your time and yourself to get the results you're looking for? Say yes, and then say at a reduced rate. So I know that you are looking to work with Krystiana in particular, because if not, then you will have to get put on a waiting list. But hopefully we won't have to do that. Hopefully we can get you started and we can get you going. All right. So tipswithtony.com/coaching, fill out the application. Chris, I know we're like so excited to have you. I know you're super excited. She kind of already has 2 clients. She does already have 2 clients. So like I said, I don't know how long this opportunity will be there for you. But just apply and hopefully it's there, and hopefully we can get you going. All right. So Chris, any last words before we sign off?
No, other than I'm really excited to be part of the team. I'm excited to meet everyone, and just really excited to kind of put my knowledge, and we talked about getting the background and stuff. So I'm really happy that I can actually help people out in their daily life. And especially if you're looking into getting a little bit more confident in the kitchen. I mean, that's something that I would love to help anyone out with.
Yeah. Amazing. All right, Chris, thanks so much. Guys, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, definitely take a screenshot of it and share it on your story. Tag me and tag Krystiana. And don't forget to apply if you haven't yet, tipswithtony.com/coaching. And that's it. See you next week. As always, this is Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.